we're just going to play to win, going out there in patrols, and we're just going to be doing like search and destroy missions of walkers, for example. Like we're going to be organizing.
Only walkers?
Well, not
right. This is where it starts getting complicated.
But hang on, I got a couple more points to throw in here. So your point about the zombies being able to find a settlement because of the concentration of human,
this is what we do.
Sort of humanness,
concentration
right?
of scent.
Yeah, scent, human scent, right? That's a fascinating idea. But the thing about settlements that I still think, I'm not saying that they wouldn't, like, you know, they would work, right? They might fail, okay. But is if you take that combination of you're preserving basic elements of humanness, right? I fundamentally do think the point at which you've gone into some weird, crazy, like we're basically acting like animals is you've lost what it means to be a human.
Right. The sanctuary.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that Negan's thing?
Yeah.
So I like, because there's so much information. Is Negan? They're like a cult. They're like a militaristic cult. What is their deal?
If I had to sum their ideology, it's Negan is at the top, and we all follow Negan.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, I am Negan.
Okay.
They are all Negan.
Okay. Okay.
It's very top down.
It's very sort of hive mind almost. Yeah.
And it's very top down. So it's like Negan is the end all be all when it comes to giving out orders.
Okay.
Which has its positives, but also has several negatives. Because if Negan is unavailable at any point in time, as we saw in The Walking Dead Season 8, it could be trouble.
Right.
For the people who live there, which, you know, they're innocent, you know?
Yeah, so that, I mean, and that sort of an idea of is it fair for me to call that a hive mind collective? Is that okay?
I mean, it would be if they could somehow, it is more of like a federalism sort of thing. In terms, it's a monarchy. The Negan is king. We are all Negan. They're all subservient to the
even more so than a monarchy. It's like an absolute, almost. I want to say this almost like a theocracy. It's like a theocratic. It's like North Korea.
It has a binds and blinds element.
Yeah, it's like a North Korea kind of like there's this figure and we just assume that we are.
There is a credit system, so.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Yeah. So for me, I would chalk that up into the category of we have functionally lost our humanity if we are in a system like that. And all the others, you know, so that's why I still keep coming back to the Rick
dictatorship
and
Woodbury,
and
right?
Woodbury. I still keep coming back to that.
I dig it.
But if you took that, and maybe this would be difficult or impossible with either the governor or with Rick, but if you just you set up a planning committee and you got everyone around the table and you say, look, everyone, we're going to run this like we're the Pentagon, right? We are just going to play to win. And I get that you have to in order to survive, right? But we're going to state that in very clear terms. We're not just going to be intense. We're not going to be, focused on killing the walkers, killing the zombies, right? We got our house, we got the prison. We're going to be focused on we're going to be going out there in patrols, and we're just going to be doing search and destroy missions of walkers, for example. Like we're going to be organizing.
Only walkers?
Well, not just walkers. No, people. That's
right. This is where it starts getting complicated.
Where it gets very complicated. But I do think that Rick's idea of you ask people, right? It's like, how many people have you killed? How many walkers have you killed?
3 questions.
How many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed? Why have you killed those people? Right.
Very good.
Yes.
He did his homework.
I did my homework. Yeah. So that idea of we because the whole time I was watching the show and I was always thinking about this idea of humans are this really interesting species, right? Because they can be a threat, but they also can be a massive benefit and a massive advantage. Like you kind of want more people on your team. You actually want to bring people into your community, and you want to recruit.
Again, more people on your team means more variables.
It does, and it means
more egos.
It means more food, right? All of these
right,
sorts
yeah,
of
yeah,
things.
egos,
right.
food.
But in a way, and I don't. There are a lot of elements of. Let's see what I'm going to get here in a second. There are a lot of elements of something like Republican ancient Rome that are really horrific. Like I want to make it very clear here. You know, the extreme violence and really awful things like human slavery and stuff like those things, like reprehensible. Like you don't want to have any of that. But this idea of we're going to have this very civic-minded, fairly collectivistic, but still Republican kind of system where we're focused on expansion, we're focused on, taking land, in this case back from walkers, let's say. We aren't going to tolerate people who really kind of try to screw with us. Like, oh, there's a band of raiders, they're a band of barbarians, band of people who are just like, they're cannibals or they're weird. Like, we're not going to deal with that. But if it's just like regular people, they're tired, they're hungry, they're suffering, and you're like, hey, look, you can work for us and you can just be part of our thing. To me, that seems like a very good system that would work in this world where you maintain what it is to be human, but you also don't beat around the bush, and you have a really, really, really strong, let's basically call it national defense against both walkers and the really bad people.
We're finding out so much more about Chris right now than we
are.
Otherwise would have on a beer show.
I mean, I don't get into this on my normal episodes. I will say that.
This is very interesting too, because you may think you have. What's very interesting is that I kind of agree with you, but however, how it goes in the real world is very telling. Yeah. It's very interesting.
I get that.
Completely different, because in some senses you do sound like Negan, and the sanctuary eventually does fall.
But how? Because again, I haven't watched this. How is that what he's proposing? My understanding is he's proposing this because again, Republican Rome, again, not Roman Empire, Republican Rome, like
a federalist system.
Yeah, like you have a Senate, you've got elections, you have you're a citizen, like you can vote on things. Like there's a meritocratic system of anyone.
That's fine as long as you don't have a Caesar.
That's fair. Yeah, that's
it. That's it.
That's fair. Yeah.
The problem with people is they all want a Caesar. This is time immemorial stuff.
Yeah.
They wanted a king, or they want a Caesar, which is the same thing. King, Caesar. It's the weird thing with people is that they want people to control their lives. Yeah. Strange thing. It
is a really strange thing.
They want a strong man. They want a dictatorship. You still see stuff like this in the Middle East, unfortunately.
You see it in a lot of places.
But it's the best case in point in terms of if you want to see real life examples of what we might see on The Walking Dead, it's like things that sometimes happen in Middle Eastern countries where you have a dictator, or you have a benevolent dictator, if you want to even call it that, but with remnants of capitalism. But you have essentially strongmen.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting about that is that you see how it can work. It can work. It can work because they adopt certain senses of capitalism and stuff like that. But the minute they're not available, it goes to the next person in charge, and you see how the dominoes start tumbling.
Really fall apart. Yeah.
I just want to tell you guys, this is why we love doing what we do, is because we get to play out these scenarios. I mean, according to our point of view and in the moment when we're breaking things down, and it's great when we start riffing on stuff like we're riffing now.
Yeah.
To get some of these curveballs and be like, oh wait, you just halted me in my tracks. I guess I have to talk about this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is. I love where you're going with this, because in a sense you're advocating for a benevolent dictator.
Well, no, I push back on that though, because again, and I understand if we're looking at historical precedent, right? This idea of a republic can devolve into a dictatorship, but I think it's very important to have, and maybe just speaking as an American or an Anglo-American.
Anglo.
Well, Anglo, you throw in the UK, right? Because you throw in the idea of Parliament, right? Parliament, right? You have your monarch, but you also have Parliament. You have modern day, obviously, but sort of elected body of people to check their power. That it's not a perfect system, but it's Winston Churchill on democracy, right? Well, democracy is the worst system in the world, except for all the other ones which have already been tried. And I
think it was capitalism, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, for him it was democracy for sure was what he was referring to, but capitalism you could say the same thing, I think. But I do think that idea of you have a very sort of militarist, civically minded, expansionist, but willing to incorporate and help people who wish to be a part of it, where you don't have a dictator, you have elections, you have a republican system, or not,
or like a federalist system.
Well, I think in this we're too small of a state. Federalism, I think, is more of a case of if you're dealing with like a large country.
Municipalities versus
you've got different municipalities,
regions versus,
and you have a central government. We're in this situation, we're talking about literally a town, basically a single town. Maybe if you somehow succeed, you can build little
remote towns and stuff like that.
You build like a colony town, and sort of the main town becomes kind of a capital, right? I think federalism would be a very far way down the road. But this idea of you're not adopting some sort of, again, just ravenously savage survival of the fittest no matter what, you maintain that sense of community and the sense of like the people around you, and like you don't go insane, but you also don't adopt some sort of very kind of hippy dippy, like we're gonna, the zombies, like they just need our help, or like, with the thing with the farm, the farm said season 2,
you'll see
they're just sick, like we need to have, like,
spoiler alert, the closest you get to that society is Alexandria. Eventually.
Okay. Well, eventually, and I think that's I'm curious about that.